It's night time, everything's yellow, and what do you know, after I inspired a sudden video response from good old Drew, he has gone and inspired me to do a quick video. I just watched his Getting to Know a Transformers Fan, and I just thought, you know what, I wasn't around for any of the previous ones that this is sort of tumbleweeded around the community for, so I think I'd better get in there and let you all know me a bit better, because of course I suppose now I'm not going to say a big name, but you know, people watch me now, so I think it's probably fair and it's the thing I should do, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it and squint over here and read out all these questions for you. Question 1. How long have you been a Transformers fan? Well, sir, I have been a Transformers fan since, God almighty, I don't know, since I was about... Details are sketchy. To be honest, I would place the time using a Christmas, because I would count it as when I got my first Transformer, but it was probably a little bit before then because I was watching Beast Wars up to that point. I'm going to say since I was 4, maybe, I think. Which places that at 15 years currently. So I'm just going to say forever, because I can't really remember much before I was 4, to be honest. So that's just like eternity, all of time. There we go. The entirety of human existence. Can you think of a standout moment in your life regarding Transformers is question number 2. This one's difficult. People are probably going to cuss me for this, but I'm going to say the first movie, 2007, because I cannot remember a point where I was that excited for something Transformers. Sitting around in a cafe, knowing that later that day I would go and see that for the first time in the cinema, I was just sitting there buzzing. I was so excited I nearly threw up. It was just amazing, and to be honest, I was 14. I loved the first film, apart from all the weird, horrible, crude jokes. I loved it. It was just perfect to me, because I was sort of used to reinvention with Transformers, because I'd grown up with Beast Wars and the Unicron trilogy, so it wasn't anything new to me. I was perfectly fine Megatron being a jet and all that jazz. I think that's probably the high point. I was so stoked. Apart from that, it would probably be something YouTubey, you know, having people that I like watching the videos of look at my stuff and say that's good, and that makes me just feel woo. But that's happened a few times, so I can't really pin that down. So yeah, probably first movie, I would say. It's probably something that a lot of people aren't going to agree with, but that's probably the high point. Question 3. Who is your favourite Transformer of all time? This is extremely hard for me to answer because, well, of course, I use sort of Waspinator and Hotshot as sort of my sort of archetypes. I'm not sure if they're my favourite characters. I mean, I only own 2 Waspinators and 3 Hotshots, and one of them's a legend figure. You know, I just haven't gone out of my way to get every version of them, when I probably should if I love them that much. I put them in my username, but we'll get to that later. Favourite Transformers character. I'm looking at my shelf as if that will give some sort of inspiration, but I'm not sure it will. I mean, recently I've realised that I'm the sort of person who will buy any Ratchet figure that comes out, any Thundercracker figure that comes out, probably any Cyclonus as well, but I'm not sure if they're my favourite characters. I mean, I suppose in a way, at the moment, with Prime, Ratchet would be my favourite character. But I'm just not sure. This is a really hard one for me to put my finger on. I could say Hotshot, because from now on I will buy anything that's Hotshot that will come out. As soon as I see the Prime one, I'm just going to cling onto it and not walk out of that shop without it. So I suppose that sort of level of, I don't know, fanboyism, maybe that makes him my favourite character, but I don't really know, to be perfectly honest. I would like to say a Beast Wars one, because that's sort of what brought me into everything, but I don't know, because then I'd have to pick between like Tarantulas and Optimus Primal and Rampage, and there's too many. I'm just going to leave this question because I just cannot answer it, and for now I'll just say, I don't know, Hotshot maybe. I don't really know. Question 4. What is your most prized Transformers possession? I've got no idea. Again, I mean, I'd squint at my shelves for some help, but most of what I've got here is like my newest stuff, so none of this is particularly prized. I'd say if one came to mind, which might not be my most prized one, it could be Beast Wars Optimus Primal, the original one, with the shoulder cannons and the mace and everything, simply because I got that not really that long ago, a few years ago, when Beast Wars was sort of around on the internet, but it wasn't as insanely expensive as it is today. And every now and then I get back into Beast Wars stuff, and this was one of those moments, and I was looking through things and thinking, there are so many figures I need, to be honest. And my dad went and bought me Optimus Prime off Amazon. I was like, it's an excellent figure. It's just, I suppose it holds sentimental value, but at the same time it probably is pretty valuable because it is just complete. I imagine it's probably quite hard to find an original Optimus Primal with all the missiles and stuff that he comes with. And I just think it's an excellent figure. So maybe that would be the answer to that question. But again, that requires more thought and delving through all my listings of all my figures and going home and going through boxes and just time. I don't know. Question 5. What is your favourite piece of Transformers fiction? I'd probably say a comic, because I was getting most of the Dreamwave stuff when it was around. I didn't sort of start at the beginning of Dreamwave, but I think I've got nearly every issue of the Armada comic, stuff like that. And then with IDW, I think I've read everything they've done, very nearly. Apart from Spotlight Prowl, I never got a copy of that. This one again is hard because there are loads of IDW stories that I like. But once again, springing to mind comes Last Stand of the Wreckers, I would say. That's very good, because that represents what you can do with the sort of writing, where you can take it. And in a way, I can see that the new series, like, well, More Than Meets the Eye, is going to go in that sort of direction. It has that sort of feel, because it's written by the same guy. So I would say, actually, my favourite piece of Transformers fiction is what's going on at the moment. It is More Than Meets the Eye. I think it's a perfect series, and I think it's just going to get better. I think that is my favourite piece. Yes, and I've only got 2 issues of it. I suppose that tells you how good it is. Question 6. Outside of Transformers, what do you do with your life? Lol, 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 I have a life. Ha 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 ha. I'm a big sort of Marvel Comics fan. I get various Marvel books like Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Invincible Iron Man, Hulk, Mighty Thor. Yeah, comics for me involve Transformers and Marvel. That is sort of the next biggest thing in my life, I suppose. So yeah, I like all the Marvel movies pretty much. I try and read as much as the sort of big event books as I can, but I think now they are just starting to get a bit predictable. I read Fear Itself and I was like, it's just a bit like Secret Invasion, which was just a bit like Civil War. So yeah, Marvel. Other than that, I would say what I'm doing with my life at the moment is studying robotics at university. But, not really sure if I'm so into that anymore, because the workload is just so much and it's not as interesting as I thought it was going to be. So, at the moment, that's what I'm doing with my life. take that as that's what I really, really love, because I'm not really loving it that much. Other things, I suppose, I just like simple things, like riding my bike down to the beach or round a park, visiting my nan because she lives like down the road, sitting in the garden with her chickens or something. Simple things. I'm a simple man leading a simple life, trying to be wise and wholesome and embrace being one with nature and all that jazz. I do get a lot of enjoyment from just sort of sitting outside on a nice day, feeling the wind rustle through the trees and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I suppose I'm a bit sort of spiritual, but don't go all religion on me, because I'm not religious at all. I suppose the closest thing would be me being a Buddhist, but even then I don't follow really any of that. The way I see it is just live your life nicely, be wholesome in what you do, and just be nice to everyone, and then they'll be nice to you, sort of thing. But I think I'm straying away from the topic a little bit. Question 7. What is the origin of your YouTube screen name? I've gone into this before, but for people who haven't seen that, I'm going to say that, well, because Wasp-shot was my first Transformer, and then Hotshot was what I call, jokingly, my second first Transformer, because I went out of it when it was all Beast Machines and RID, and then Armada brought me back in. So it's sort of splitting up those two names, putting them together, and chucking the day of my birthday on the end. That's it. Simple as that. Question 8. Whose videos do you enjoy watching? I could probably read them off a little list. I mean, Drew, who inspired me to do this, I enjoy watching his stuff. It's nice to see him sort of getting back behind the camera again. It's been a little while since we've seen anything from him. Figure Death, yes. Matter Smasher, Brentosaur. I did sort of get into all of the whole YouTube thing through watching Thew's videos. But should I be honest and say that he's never going to see this, so I find I prefer watching other people's videos now, because I actually interact with them, you know? Thew's the kind of guy who doesn't actually talk to anyone really. Mitch Santona is probably my go-to reviewer. There's lots of people like Dave and 5 Awesome Transformers guys, even though I've got to say that's going downhill a little bit. There's loads of people I enjoy watching, and I'm sorry if I've forgotten you, but you'll probably know who you are. Question 9. Which Transformer is your holy grail? You seek the grail. This is another tough one, because I've never really thought of one, really. I mean, I've always wanted a Transmetal Megatron. I still don't have one, but in a way that's sort of been satisfied by me getting an Armada Predacon, which for a while I thought that was my holy grail, simply because it's like Transmetal Megatron but in Armada, so it's like putting Beast Wars and Armada together, which are like my two favourite lines, and boom, that's just an amazing figure. I mean, yeah, it's not really much of an interconnect between Beast Wars and Armada when you just stick mini-cons on a Beast Wars figure, but I really like that figure and I got it, and so now I suppose I don't really have a holy grail. Maybe, if anything, there might be, I'm not sure, a couple of G1 figures maybe that I mean, I'm not really a big G1 fan. I realise that everyone has love for G1 figures, but at the same time knows that they're not really any good. There are a few I like the look of and think that if they updated them they'd lose something of that sort of charm that they have already. I think Trigger Happy is one, maybe a Bombshell as well. There's a handful of G1 figures that I would really like to have. One of them probably being a version of the Optimus, because I must be the only person in the world who doesn't have some form of a G1 Optimus mould. That's probably up there somewhere. Final question! If you could transform into anything, what would it be? I've thought about this many a day, you see. Sometimes I think, oh, a jet would be nice, and then I realise I don't really like flying. So I think it'd be a car. I mean, well, I've designed my own Transformers too many times to count, and they usually centre around my dad's BMW 318i, I believe it is, in midnight blue. I'm not really saying that would be what I would transform into. It's not that good a car nowadays, but I suppose that's sort of something I can relate to, so maybe. I'm sure it would be a blue car, let's leave it at that. I mean, there are probably too many car makes out there that I would look at and think, oh, actually, I'll scan that and just have that instead. I don't know, blue car, leave it at that. Mercedes, Beamer, maybe even like a Honda Civic, I've got no idea. There are too many cars that I like the look of. So, I guess that brings you to the end of your little exploration through my mind and who I am and all that. I hope you didn't find the process too disturbing. So, I sign off now and say, go make one yourself of these. Go make one of these yourself if you haven't done already, because I think it's pretty cool. I've watched a few of these. I watched a few of them when they're around the first time, but that was after they actually, sort of happened. So, I'd say, I hope you know me a little bit better. I hope you know yourselves better. And keep on trucking or something.